People love to say that failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And for exams and film shoots and things like that, of course, you have to be ready. But there comes a point where preparing actually halts progress. So I've noticed a trend in myself recently, and that is to spend an ungodly amount of time looking up productivity tips, ways to be more efficient with time. So much so that I actually end up preparing and never actually doing the thing I'm preparing for. I just can't get over how stupidly ironic it is to be wasting time looking up ways to spend my time better. Doesn't make sense. Essentially, it comes down to too much input versus too little output. We have too many bits of advice being thrown at us, and it only serves to hinder action. Take last month, for example. I knew that I needed a new hard drive. In fact, I needed a couple. And I had my eyes set on the Samsung T5. I thought, brilliant, nice and easy, everyone uses them. But the good old internet decided to throw up some options, give me some choices. So I thought I'd check them on YouTube and see what people were saying. 3 weeks later, I'm behind in the edit, I'm stressed, and I still haven't bought a hard drive. And I'm convinced no matter which one I get, it's gonna lose all my footage, it's going to lose all my clients, and I'm not gonna have any work. I ended up buying the one I thought I was gonna buy to begin with anyway, and it's fine. And that halted progress not just in buying the hard drive, but in all aspects. It halted my progress in good sleep, it halted my progress in doing the job, it halted other things that I needed to do because I actually ended up focusing in on this one thing that was pointless. I didn't need to spend my time doing that. The answer, it turns out, is not to watch 15 top 10 progress videos or 5 productivity tips from 20 different people. It comes down to one very simple, actionable piece of advice. And it's something that I was reminded about yesterday when I was watching Danny Gavert's YouTube video. And that is to just start. I know that's really disappointing to hear. You want to hear there's a magic shortcut, but the truth is there isn't. You just have to begin, just as I am right now. This is my first YouTube video. Nothing's gonna go to plan, nothing's gonna be perfect, and you have to embrace that. And you already know it because I already knew it. We avoid doing it because it means we have to face the fear and the challenge head on. You need to forget everything else. You need to not spend the next 4 months waiting or looking up the best studying tech or wondering if you should write that novel. You just need to put pen to paper, the SD card in the camera, and start. Why not enjoy and embrace the imperfections rather than resent them? There's a great story in a book by Matthew Syed. It's called Black Box Thinking. And it's about a company who manufactured nozzles. They were having a lot of issues with one of their nozzles, and they hired a team of designers and a team of biologists. Naturally, the designers spent the whole time designing the perfect nozzle. This was going to be the nozzle to end all nozzles. It was going to be perfect, flawless. How can it not be? They're all designers. But the biologists took a trial and error approach of making one, seeing what worked, what didn't, and making another one. End result, the designers one didn't work. It was worse than the nozzle that had the issue to begin with. Whereas the biologist one was perfect, taking one step at a time, analysing what went right, what went wrong, and making an improvement on that. So I guess you could say that progress is evolution over revolution. Bit cheesy. You can't design the perfect scenario. You can only make a choice, see what happens, and alter the next choice and learn and develop from there. And that's how you make progress. I remember when I was at school, I used to try to manufacture the perfect scenario to ask out the girl I fancied. And I never ended up asking them out because that perfect situation never came about. It's like that scene in The Terminal with Tom Hanks where he creates this perfect situation for when Catherine Zeta-Jones' character comes back. But if that was real life, that's not how that would go. Definitely not for me. She'd probably get rerouted to another airport, or my friend would actually end up running her over. By the time she got to me, she'd not only have a crushed leg, but she would think I had the worst friends of all time, and she would be absolutely fuming, and rightly so. There's only so much you can prepare before you have to just cross the threshold. And when you do, it's never gonna go to plan, ever. I was directing a commercial and it'd been organized perfectly. We had a really nice day planned, nice and easy. But first thing in the morning, the weather was absolutely not what we wanted. The camera package arrived with the wrong media card, so we had to go and get the right media card sent to us. And the talent, which is a word that I'm not a huge fan of anyway, but we'll talk about that another time, turned up 2 hours late. So straight off the bat, we were 2 hours behind dealing with all sorts of issues, and that lovely schedule, the perfect plan, was out the window. But that requirement to suddenly change and to adapt, that taught me things, and I progressed as a director through that experience. Had that just gone perfectly to plan, I don't think I would have. I think I would have just done the job and moved on. But because so many things ended up going wrong, it gave me a lot more confidence about having to work on the fly and think of a new schedule and things like that. You know, at some point you've got to realize you can't control everything. And the more I think about it, the more I think, why would I want to? Like, where's the joy in that? Where's the living in that? Surely it's that spontaneity that gives us happiness and growth as people. I've been torn over the last year whether or not I start a YouTube channel. And thinking back, if I just started and seen what had happened, then I'd be a year down the line, who knows where I'd be now. But I couldn't. I was just too trapped in my own fear, my too internal war about the pros and the cons. You know, what will people think? What will I think? Can I really do it? And the reality is that was a lot of time and energy spent on something that wasn't even happening. It's just headspace taken up. But the same amount of time could have been well spent making these videos, actually starting and seeing what happens. You know, maybe this will be terrible, but at least I'll know. But if you don't just start, you'll never know. You'll never progress. You'll only be there in your head, which is not actually doing it at all. Something I'm really keen to do going forward for me personally is to just try and be more content with what I'm doing, just to be more comfortable with it, to think actually it doesn't matter if I'm not 10 steps ahead. If I'm here, then I'm at least one step closer. And that's what this is. That's what I hope to achieve by doing these videos. Just allowing things to maybe go wrong, you know, and see where that spontaneity and those surprises come and embrace that. That may be a better way to progress than I could ever have planned for, you know? I've always struggled with spontaneity. I've never been a spontaneous person. I'm actually a bit of a worrier. And I'm okay with that. You know, as you get older, you begin to not only become okay with who you are, you actually begin to like who you are. And that's a nice feeling, particularly when I think back to my younger teenage years where I had no idea who I was, what I was doing. That's not to say I know exactly who I am now or exactly what I'm doing now, but looking back, I can see moments and opportunities I missed out on because I was so fixed in my head about getting it perfect or how to prepare for it properly. When you could just dive in and see where that takes you, which is exactly what this is. And the more I think about it, the more I think that spontaneity is a way to get some inspiration, some happiness and some opportunity. And that's not to say you have to be the most spontaneous person out there. If you're not, that's okay. But if you're like me and you just spent so much time trying to map it out perfectly in your head first, maybe take a step back and just think, okay, well, at some point I've got to get in the car and go on the journey. And I think that's way more likely to get you to where you want to go than just staying where you are now, looking up all the best answers before you even take that first step. And for you, whatever it is that you want to progress in, all it really takes is that one piece of advice. You don't need those top 10 tips. You don't need the newest iPad. You can have as many life hacks as you like, but at some point you have to make that decision to just start, whatever it is, to just do it. It won't be perfect, but it'll be something. And just like that, I finished my first YouTube video and I call that progress. So yeah, I guess I'll see you soon.